Well, hello, we're back. Patty and
Al,
your professional lovers in
in
training.
training.
We missed you last week. As I said, I was out of town, and so we couldn't do our recap last week. So we're doing both weeks tonight, and hopefully we can still stay within the 20 to 30 minute time frame.
I believe you can.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot has changed.
No. And we'll just talk about each couple and their issues from the perspective of both weeks at one time.
Okay.
So let's start with the messiest and then end with the best.
Note.
So we can, end on a good note.
Yeah.
So right now, the messiest couple is
Brandon
and Taylor.
Yeah.
Oh boy. I have to say, I've said this before. We're not supposed to talk about the people themselves, but he gets on my nerves. But last week, the thing that really struck us, and I'll say us, but me about Taylor, is that as smart as she is, for her to try to say that the video she posted was not to intentionally hurt him, that it had nothing to do with him, which was obvious because she framed herself as being single, that it was just supposed to be funny. That's hard to believe.
She wasn't laughing.
That's hard to believe that she actually thought that. And she came out clean this week and said that she was trying to hurt him.
Right.
But any logically thinking person picked up on that already.
Everybody knew.
And she did not apologize until the end.
Yeah.
And she apologized in the card.
In a card.
Do you feel like she should have apologized out loud in front of the camera?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. And that's the thing about it. I mean, I really believe that fear, and as far as I'm concerned, that's all that stems any of this madness, is the situation that they are currently in because of its permanence and its I don't know, the severity of it. Being married, I think it scares people to death when they're not necessarily ready for it. I mean, yes, they agree to this situation, but I mean, even to agree to marry someone that you truly love, that you spent time with, you still feel apprehensive and scared and, cold feet or whatever the case may be.
Did you have cold feet?
Not at all.
Okay.
I
didn't either.
Well, I mean.
But a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you're right. But fear drives most of the negative reactions that we've seen in a lot of these couples.
Mm-hmm. True.
Fear drives anger. Fear drives, fear drives anxiety. Fear drives the shutting down. It's all fear.
Yeah. Defense mechanisms automatically come up into play where, again, you don't know this person, but it's with the intent that you're a couple, that you're supposed to be vulnerable with each other. And even though I know it's with a stranger, you spent time getting to know each other, so it should be growing process.
3 weeks.
A month. It's been
okay.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the show tonight, 3 weeks into a month.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, Taylor, should have owned up. She made a public video. Well, she made a public video that she then posted on social media.
Mm-hmm.
So she should have apologized publicly and not, hide behind a card. So Brandon had a valid point with that. But Brandon's refusal to forgive And his constant
Characterization.
thank you, of her, um, in that one incident compared to his several incidents. Now, maybe there are things that we aren't seeing on camera,
possibly,
that she has said or done, I find to be really hypocritical. And his refusal to forgive, and his insistence that she's probably not being genuine. I do believe when she said he's looking for an out, when she told her friends last week that he was looking for any out he could to end this, I kind of believe that.
Well, I mean, that's what she felt. But again,
But
I mean, I think
no,
it's kind of awkward that he is expecting something that he wasn't willing to give. Is you know, it just creates awkwardness, you know.
Well, but that's why I'm saying it appears as though he does just want it out, because he refuses to do for her what he expected her to do for him.
Yeah.
Because one of his beefs is you keep bringing up Panama. I thought we were past this.
And that to me, again, that's unfortunate, because you crossed the barrier, you crossed the line. And even with that, I mean, one thing that I harp on that this takes, whether it's brand new or even if it's 26 years old, patience is critical within a relationship. And for him to think that things can just be turned off because we said we're going to forget it and it's over and done with, that's unrealistic.
And we talked about that from our book. And I'm hoping that this flips and you can read the words
properly. It's not backwards.
Right. But becoming a professional lover. We talked about forgiveness a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
And, you know, forgiveness is the number one relationship fixer.
True.
The number one relationship fixer. And it is an active behavior. You have to make a choice to forgive. But like you said, you don't forget.
Right.
But the idea of forgetting it is about not allowing it to color how you interact with your spouse or significant other from that point.
Or re-enter into whatever your forward motion is.
And we also said that the person who's offended, who is the offender, can't determine when the time is up for you to act
or
a certain way. Yeah, to move on. That's good. You can't do that. That's not your place.
True.
You know, and we believe that according to the Bible, God says that you're to forgive 70 times 7. So that's 400.
That's a whole lot of forgiveness.
That's 490 times.
It's a whole lot of forgiveness.
Which is a way of saying, if a person asks for forgiveness, you should grant it.
Right. You should definitely try. Matter of fact, you should continually try. Because again, if a person is asking for forgiveness, they already know that they've done something to you that's offended you. So for them, now they're being vulnerable because they're putting themselves in a situation to ask for something of you. They've hurt you. They've created a situation that you're uncomfortable about, or whatever the situation is. They know that they offended you in some shape, form, or fashion. Now they're asking for you to forgive them. They're putting themselves in a vulnerable position, giving you the opportunity to place them back on an even playing field.
Yeah.
because now they're in foul territory. They're off the grid because they've put themselves off the grid by whatever their actions were. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, finish.
But now they want to get back on the field. They want to get back on the court. I'm a sports guy, that's my analogies. But they want to get back into the game, and they want to have a full role in playing or being part of the team. And it's up to the individual who has been offended to make them feel as if they are
Right.
part of the team.
And part of the forgetting is that you don't keep bringing it up.
Exactly.
If you've actually forgiven, you don't keep referring to it and bringing it up. And that is one thing that Taylor continued to do, I assume, is to just keep bringing it up, which of course made Brandon feel that she really hadn't forgiven him and moved on. So anyway, so right now he has no interest in being friends. He has no interest. Oh, the other question I wanted to ask you is, is it the right of the person, the offender? Well, no. Is it the right of the offended to determine if an apology is genuine or not? Because that was his reason for not being willing to forgive is, I don't think she's genuine. Is that really his place to say?
I mean, for him to say it publicly in the manner that he said it, I don't necessarily know. But, again, there was a delay in her actually giving it because she had ample opportunity to just say, I'm sorry. Even if she wasn't sorry for doing it, she could at least have said that she was sorry about how it made him feel.
Right.
Okay, and yeah, at least that shows a concern about how you
his
felt
feelings.
about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm believing that because he didn't get what he thought he could have received or what could have been said prior to that and it be public. I mean, and he, again, unfortunately, people have a desire to compare because he'll talk about how he apologized to her publicly, mm-hmm. how he apologized to the crew, how he apologized mm-hmm. to the staff, the production company, and all of that. Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming that he was looking for a similar type of apology. Mm-hmm. People are different. Now, she did apologize in a card. Now, whether or not, I mean, I would even find out, is apologizing difficult for you to do?
And it is difficult for some people.
It is. It's difficult for most people. But for the simple fact that it didn't come out publicly or verbally on camera,
right?
Versus in a card, maybe she needed to, gather her thoughts. She needed that time to actually put it in words.
Maybe she was respecting his ultra private nature that he kept talking about, that we know he didn't want to do anything on camera. I mean, that crossed my mind. I can't say that that's why she did it in a card, but that crossed my mind because he has made such an issue of that.
But again, I think, ultimately it gave him his excuse, that he wanted out. And I think gradually he's been building himself up to finally say, no, I'm done with this.
Right. So that's his out. So. All right. So let's move on to the next messiest couple, which is Mindy and Zach.
Yeah.
Dude is playing games.
Oh, man.
He's been playing games. And I think she's finally had enough.
I mean,
I kind of hope she's had enough. Because this latest thing, and let's not even talk about last week when I'm glad that, I think people called him out about the fact that he hasn't really been trying, giving his all to this marriage. And Dr. Pepper called him out, and and everybody has called him out about it.
We're gonna see exactly how Calvin calls him out next week.
But this week's episode with them just showed
I mean,
just how many games he's been playing.
but I mean, that's a level of immaturity that, I mean, teenagers play.
Exactly.
You know, when you're supposed to read a person and understand what's on their mind. Now, you're going to accuse me of being something. You're going to accuse me of being dishonest.
Thank you. Let's just put it out there.
Okay. And then you're going to tell me I think you should think about it.
And you need to guess because I can't say anymore. If you weren't going to be upfront,
you shouldn't have mentioned it at all.
You shouldn't have mentioned it at all. Okay, this idea that, and people who've been married or together a long time do this sometimes, where you know me. You're supposed to be able to look at me, look at my face, read my body language, and then
understand what I'm feeling.
Understand even not just what you're feeling, but what you're supposed to do for me to make me feel better.
But now she's supposed to understand this after a month's time.
A month, and
he's not even in the house. I mean, he's not even staying there together to get to understand who each other is all about. I mean, where does the friendship, where does the relationship take place? When he comes to visit? I mean, they do a decent job of dating.
And they're married. And so, so this whole thing about, you've been dishonest with details you've left out, only to discover that he's accusing her of what he himself is.
Dishonest.
That all of this time he has been talking to a close friend of hers behind her back.
Yeah.
And then when she calls a friend, the friend is less than honest as well. She was so over the top, you could tell she was lying. Mm-hmm. I never want to talk to him again. He's a liar. He's a sociopath. Okay, when you're taking it over the top like that, you're trying to distract your best friend.
That's obvious guilt.
It is. You're trying to detract your best friend from asking you any more questions about why you have been talking to her husband, about her husband, mm-hmm. Not a boyfriend, not somebody she just met. Well, yeah, she did just meet him, but her husband. Yeah. Okay?
Why wouldn't she have called her friend to let her know that, you know, we've had a discussion about you?
So, you don't play games like that. And that is a level of immaturity.
Yeah.
That, really, I think this is the first season, and I've been watching Married at First Sight from the beginning. I have the sense that this is the first season that really shows up the flaws in the Married at First Sight process. Yeah. Because they have 4 couples out of 5, 3 of them with major character flaws and issues.
Yeah. Relational character flaws.
Yeah. It's tiring, actually. It's tiring. It's starting to get tiring to watch.
It takes energy.
This play out.
It takes energy.
Okay, so Mindy and Zach. Zach's playing games. Mindy just needs to cut her losses. I'm sorry. Because there's no way, there's nothing that you can do with that kind of issue. Yeah. And so let's move on to Mika and Michael. Yes, mm-hmm. Mika and Michael.
I've always said that Michael, they intimidate each other in totally different ways, but they intimidate each other. Michael is not accustomed to a headstrong woman. And Mika puts up defenses to ensure that a relationship will never cost her.
Yeah.
And I believe he felt that he had to match her level of extracurricular, the salary, the status job wise, the
making himself look and feel as important as she comes across,
or that he thinks she expects him to be.
Yeah, so we know that Mika's style, and I can relate because I have a little bit of her.
Do you now?
I do. I have a little bit of her alpha femaleness, as in that strength, and that
you got 4 brothers.
And yes, I did grow up with 4 brothers. I had to learn how to hold my own.
True.
But as a result, my tone of voice can come across as very firm. Mm-hmm. But I do think that I have learned when to turn that on and when to turn that off. And she does not create a safe space for communicating because she doesn't know how to soften that up and turn it off. Yeah. It's constantly in your face communication. Yeah. And he cannot take that.
Yeah. And it's true. He can't.
He cannot take that.
He shuts down because he feels that he's in a confrontation,
right?
Just from the manner in which she expresses herself.
Yeah,
and she's just very matter of fact and very crisp,
very matter of fact, very
cut and
dry, logical,
and firm.
And yeah, like there doesn't seem to be any real nurturing emotion there. Yeah. Now, but Michael, on the other hand, we know that
I believe he's always been nurtured.
Right.
And this is something new for him from a totally different female.
Right. But my issue with him is what we've been talking about all season is the dishonesty. And it came out in last week's episode how dishonest he's really been. And he had to admit, he did admit finally, that there have been things that he has said that were not true.
Weren't totally true.
Which means they weren't true. Okay? Because, we know that lies are not just complete falsehoods, but they are misrepresentations. They are omissions of information and detail. All of those constitute
embellishments.
Lies. Exaggeration. All of which he seems to have done.
Yeah.
And with Mika being a very logical person, if it's not making sense, I'm going to let you know, I'm sorry, that doesn't make sense.
I mean,
it doesn't make sense, and you are insisting that it's making sense, and it doesn't make sense, and I'm letting you know that. And
I don't think that the show intentionally tried to make him out to be a liar, but they showed clips back to back of about a job that he said that he had.
That he turned down.
The
yoga one.
As a yoga instructor.
Right.
That he taught 3 times a week.
Then he said...
Another clip said he taught once a month.
Only to find out...
that...
he cleans the rooms? He cleans rooms. Okay.
And maybe the person that you met at the place that he decided to bring her to, that he's supposed to be a part of...
didn't know you?
They didn't know you.
Okay, so in past episodes, when we've talked about this honesty thing, we have kind of given him the benefit of the doubt because we at home can't see everything that's going on.
True.
On camera or off camera. But now that we know that he has been lying, and we can understand clearly why Mika is having trust issues. When Dr. Pepper got involved last week, she, it was almost as though she was somewhat trivializing his penchant for lying. And by saying things like, well, it's in the past, Can you stop? You know, people embellish things all the time to make themselves look good or feel good. We're talking about a character flaw here.
Trust issues.
We're talking about a character flaw that is foundational to trust.
Yeah.
So I couldn't agree with Dr. Pepper from that angle. It was almost as though she's trying to save the marriage for the show.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm sorry, if my partner will resort to lying for whatever reason, I'm gonna let you. If I'm already married to you, I honestly don't know how I would deal with that. They would have to go into counseling.
Yeah. I mean, there'd have to be distinct, intentional steps to address it.
Right.
And then find a resolution on how to get through it.
Right.
So that it doesn't reoccur.
Yeah.
Because whenever trust is a question mark in a relationship,
then that relationship's not going
the relationship
far.
is questioned.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's good that this week they were able to communicate better. Although she didn't let him know that she hates breakfast. And if it's something, I mean, if your
and she
partner
doesn't hide her facial expressions,
yeah, her body language, everything, and he just totally
ignored it.
He didn't
ignore it.
He didn't pick up on it.
Read any of it.
He didn't read any of it. He was so giddy and happy about being able to make her breakfast.
Yeah, well, this is what me and my grandma used to do for each other, and and all she had to do was say, I appreciate the gesture. But maybe we need to create our own tradition and try brunch or dinner.
Well, let's hope that off camera, she actually got to a point where she shared her true feelings about breakfast, because it's important that you love your spouse the way your spouse needs to be loved.
Yeah.
It is not about loving your spouse the way you want to love your spouse.
Yeah.
And what makes you feel good. It's about making your spouse feel good.
Right.
And
they're not loved until they say so.
Exactly. And again, you'll find that in the book. Okay. That love isn't love until your spouse says so.
Yeah.
And that you have to love your spouse his or her way. Because when you don't, then you are being selfish. Because you're insisting on loving your spouse your way. And that's key to productive, strong relationships. And so, Mika, tell Michael that you don't like breakfast.
Yeah. Simple.
But do it in a way that is not confrontational.
Well, just couch it with you appreciate the gesture and what you're trying to do. And I mean, it tasted good, but I'm not a breakfast eater. Simple. And that's honest. That's just being honest. And he'd have to accept that and move forward from it. And if he's just willing to try to make you happy, he'll just have to do it another way.
Right. All right. Katie and Derek.
Speed bump.
I'm trying to, because last week it was cute. They discovered that neither of them had the skill for cooking. They got everybody to come take a cooking class.
A little bit of
or
oil, olive oil, something.
And I like the way Derek took Katie's criticism about his cooking just, in stride.
Yeah.
It made it a joke, and he was like, yeah, you're right, and that was refreshing instead of getting uptight and defensive about it.
She really, neither one of them could cook.
Yeah. So, but this week there was a little hiccup.
Yeah.
And we're back to her fixating on whether or not he can fall in love with her in these 8 weeks. And it's like sabotaging
really
your relationship. simply because you're not sure if he will fall in love, because he says, I'm not sure if I can actually say I will fall in love.
He's being honest. But aside from his words,
His
his
behavior
actions and the things that
Yes.
he is doing to show her that he's committed to her,
Right.
and this path that they are on together,
And it's love. He's not saying it verbally
yeah,
yet. Because, let's face it, to say that you love somebody, even after months of dating,
what you trying to say?
no, to say that you love somebody is big.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, that's a serious word.
And so if I'm married someone I do not know at all, why are you expecting me to use that word, no matter how well we get along? In 3, 4, why are we putting a time on it?
Yeah, and but in an effort to allow Derek to understand, I would even try to explain to him the difference between loving someone and being in love with someone. Because being in love with someone is
It's a
true.
time thing.
It's a growing situation. You develop that.
Right. You don't fall
Now,
into it. We've talked about that as well.
You
don't
can
fall into it.
You can genuinely love a person and not like a person. But just to make him feel at ease, that maybe to say it may not be so bad, but again, he doesn't use the word lightly, so
but see, she's fixated on hearing the words.
I know, and that's unfortunate.
So because she's fixated on hearing the words, she's missing
all of what he's doing. And I can't even say that she's missing it, but she's not understanding the value of his actions versus the words that she's not hearing.
Because he's loving on her big time.
Really?
And she's feeling the actions, the big gifts that he gave her, as part of their 1-month anniversary, that moved her to tears.
Yeah, he compounded on what they did as a production
setting
company.
up the house, the apartment, having it all set up when she got there, he said, I want to be the most romantic husband. That is love, people. That is showing love. Yeah. Okay. Sure. And so she needs to stop fixating on whether or not he will fall in love and look at the evidence. And when he's ready to say that he's in love, he'll say it. Yeah. Hopefully. Which moves us to the